know what has me worried is that conversations like this are particularly esoteric, hard for the average person to follow. It's easy when you see a video on TikTok of some woman in a gym complaining about men and be like, hey, here's a cultural issue, this weird, here's an artifact of the culture war. You got these stories where these women are in gyms and they're like, excuse me, are you looking at me? And the guys are like, what? And then the woman drops the barbell or whatever on her foot and she's screaming and then everyone laughs. Stories like that. Or there's one that went viral where this woman got kicked out. Those are so easy for the average person to understand. Hey, there's something clearly wrong with the way our culture is developing. But stuff like this is extremely hard to understand. Most people don't even know it happened. And this will probably have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, impact on whether or not you can even talk about the other issues. So the difficulty here is, how do we get a message like this? Hey guys, California is trying to do one of the most egregious violations of the First Amendment we've seen in decades or more. And we need people to understand and care about this element of the culture war fight.
I mean, seeing the Newsom and others in California, their rhetoric about hate is alarming. That is a cultural media artifact that is kind of, can you explain that? What specifically what they both said and explain Banta.
So yeah, Attorney General Banta is the chief and law enforcement officer of the state of California, and it is to his office that these reports have to be made. To your question about hate, yeah, I mean the governor, I think, was very candid in the way he described the effect of this law and the goal of this law. It is not merely to provide consumers with more transparency about how decision making is done within these platforms. It is about curbing the spread of hate in California, and the state of California taking a stand against hate, which again is an undefined term. I mean, even legislators who supported this measure were out in front of the press with terms like "stop hate" blazoned on front of the podiums that they were standing behind. So
it's weaponized. Right. They're weaponizing the word hate.
Right. And to return to Bill's point, we mentioned the categories, and there are, as he pointed out, some notable omissions. I mean, child pornography, for example, is not listed in this. In this laundry list.
Well, that's actually not surprising at all.
Yeah, you don't need a policy against that.
You don't need a policy against that.
But you better not say naughty words.
But again, misinformation and disinformation, and we've seen, right? We have seen the way that those two terms in particular have been weaponized against political and ideological enemies in this country. And that is why this effort, among others, is so important, to draw a line in the sand and say, no further. We're not going down this road.
So we're suing. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're challenging this. So I'm glad to be a part of it, obviously, because we've got to do more than just complain about it on the internet. We're complaining about it now, but we're also letting you guys know, we're taking action. So then the big question people are probably asking is, what do we want? What do we win if we win?
Yeah, what we will be asking for is an injunction from the court that will enjoin the Attorney General's office and the other responsible state actors in California from enforcing this. And that will be the relief that we will seek in the litigation.
So there's an interesting view, right? So we've got Bill here, who runs a big social media platform, and then you've got me, who produces content like this for social media platforms. And there's a few big issues. One, I mean, you guys at Minds will be directly impacted because the law targets you. For me as the producer, I'll be directly impacted because it indirectly targets me, because now what's going to happen is these companies are going to be like, well, it's ill-defined, but look, if Newsom is threatening some kind of fine, unless we take action against their political rivals, it's I'll put it this way. I remember talking to the guys over at Patreon. They had suspended some dude, terminated his account, destroyed his income, and the CEO was like, Tim, if I don't ban this one guy, hundreds of thousands of people lose their jobs. Or it was like tens of thousands of people lose their jobs. If we don't comply with this regulation and this guy is allowed on the platform, everyone loses their account. So the idea is, I hate to do it, but I got to ban this one guy to save the 99 guys.
You specifically spoke with Conte?
This was years ago. Yeah, years ago. This was because he had banned, who was banned first? Was it Lawrence Southern? I think Lawrence Southern was banned first. And then we were like, yo, like to abruptly destroy someone's income. And so this was around the time Lawrence Southern had gotten on a boat, and she was like waving a flare in the air at one of these migrant human smuggling ships. The left tries to call them refugee ships, but like when a boat goes to another country and picks people up and brings them back, they're just trafficking. So, but then they were like, because of that, they were terminating her account or something. They didn't give her any notice. So all of a sudden her income's gone. And they were like, well, you know, too bad. But it caused a huge backlash. Patreon then was then like, okay, we'll never do this again. We'll always make sure to give notice. Then someone dug up like a year-old podcast on a tiny channel from Carl Benjamin. Also, he runs the Lotus Eaters podcast. And he was using a racial slur against racists. Basically, the idea was, I'm going to call you what you call them. See how you like it. And they went up, doesn't matter. He used a slur. Not on Patreon's platform.
Yeah, both were off platform.
Both were off platform. Yeah. And Carl's video was from a year ago. It got a few thousand views. It was on YouTube, not on Patreon. They banned him anyway. And so this caused a major backlash, and a bunch of large creators left. Jordan Peterson, I think, had left. I don't know if he was on it. Sam Harris.
I mean, Sam Harris defended Carl.
Right.
Like,
and
talk about La La Land when we talk about Sam Harris now.
Right. He defended Carl. He leaves the platform. I ended up talking with the CEO, and he was basically saying, because there was another issue where this guy, Robert Spencer, had his account deleted, and they said, it was reportedly, I think Patreon said this, MasterCard went to them and said, we will not handle transactions from you unless you get rid of this guy. And so the mentality from Conte, from the CEO was, you know, if I've got 30,000 people who make a living on this platform, and they all rely on it, and we have to get rid of one guy, and if we don't, 30,000 people lose their income, I have no choice. My response was, stop being a fucking pathetic coward and call their bluff. Tell them, MasterCard, I would like to see how you handle 30,000 unemployed, famous people, celebrities, influencers, all of the people with millions of followers each waking up one day to find they have no revenue anymore, and it's your fault. Make my fucking day. And the coward at Patreon said, but I don't want to do that. So he did nothing. So, excuse me, my attitude with all this is, you got to stand up. You got to call them out. If Twitter, if Facebook, if these platforms are presented with this law, they're going to say, look, we really don't want to ban Tim Pool, but if we got to ban one guy to save 100,000, well, then we're going to have to do it. So fuck that. Fire away. Let's get this lawsuit done and stop them from being able to do that.
And how did the Patreon lawsuit end up? Because they did get, there was a complaint against them, right?
Well, there was the Owen Benjamin thing. I don't remember exactly what happened. That was crazy because the mass arbitration was potentially going to bankrupt the company. I don't know where they went with that. I just know that that's the mentality of these companies. I mean, the reality was Jack Conte had all the leverage in the world. He could have gotten on the phone with MasterCard and been like, you done fucked up, boy, because I'm going to make a phone call to one of our top podcasts that bring in 100K per month, that have 10 million subscribers, and I'm going to say, hey, you are about to get banned because MasterCard is threatening to pull the plug on the platform. Why don't you make a video explaining it? Here's the paperwork they sent us. That one guy makes one video, it ripples across the entire internet, and in 2 seconds, MasterCard's lost 10% market share. Make my day. But these people are all cowards. None of them do it. At least we got Bill Ottman, CEO of Minds, being like, I will sue. You know, and me as just one creator being like, I will also sue. So we may be the little guy in this David versus Goliath, but let's fucking.
I mean,
do
changing policy is our only tool.
Yeah,
it's not our only tool, but it's a primary.
Elon Musk in this? I mean, it's been what? When was this bill passed? Almost a year ago.
Yeah, and I think it was passed before he took ownership of Twitter. To your question, I don't know what his position is on this bill, or if he is even aware of it.
Maybe he doesn't know.
But yeah, hopefully this will make him aware.
I guess we will see. But to your point, Tim, I mean, yeah, it takes tenacity, it takes fortitude, it takes courage to stand up and really do the right thing, and that's what this is. It's doing the right thing. It's speaking truth to power in California and standing up for free speech and the First Amendment.